He had been found in his bathroom, unconscious, not breathing, was brought to the hospital by ambulance, and Elvis was declared dead at 3:30. He had probably died earlier in the day, sometime between 9 and 2:30, doctors say.
The public thought Elvis Presley died from the same causes as other famous people, a combination of fame, excess, and drugs for more than 40 years. However, there is more to the tale than that. At the age of 100, Dr. George "Nick" Nichopoulos, who was Elvis's personal physician for many years, is speaking up. Avoid attorneys at all costs. Free of media bias. Absolutely true. He witnessed Elvis's last moments and has kept a secret ever since, a fact that may alter our perception of the king of rock and roll. When Graceland closed its doors on August 16, 1977, what actually transpired inside? Dr. Nick's prolonged silence begs the question, why? You heard it here first. It's the unfiltered account of Elvis's demise and the avenues that may have spared his life. Elvis Presley's connection with Dr. George "Nick" Nichopoulos started out as a medical emergency, not because of Presley's celebrity or influence. While visiting his ranch in Mississippi in the late 60s, Elvis had an unexpected health problem. Since a doctor in their area was unavailable, they spoke with Dr. Nick, a respected Memphis doctor. Something clicked the second Dr. Nick walked in, even though it was only meant to be a regular appointment. The king of rock and roll took note of his level-headed, unpretentious demeanor, since it was so different from the mayhem that frequently engulfed Elvis. Because he was used to being treated like a celebrity, Elvis was apprehensive about meeting new people. However, Dr. Nick treated him with the respect due a person, not a celebrity, and never wowed or skirted the subject because of his notoriety. His genuineness made him stand out right away. Their initial meeting turned into a protracted discussion on Elvis's health, habits, and way of life, going much beyond the usual doctor's appointment. Elvis never gave freely, particularly to people outside his carefully regulated inner group. Yet that candor created the germ of trust. No amount of fame, money, or music could ever have formed that bond between Elvis and any medical professional doctor. Dr. Nick was the polar opposite of Elvis, who wanted to serve people instead of make money off of his generosity. And this was a conundrum that Elvis found compelling. Elvis would seek his guidance for even more when the diagnosis and therapy got complex, bringing emotional stability. Also, Dr. Nick saw firsthand how much of a toll performance after show, the physical strain, and the mental isolation of being a worldwide superstar took on Elvis. One house call planted the seed for a connection that would endure a lifetime. After that, Elvis quickly requested that he take over as his personal physician. Actually, the role's duties extended beyond the medical field. Along with keeping tabs on Elvis's health, Dr. Nick also looked after his family and entourage. While the position required a great deal of selflessness and dedication, it also provided enough opportunities for relaxation and rejuvenation. What began as an unexpected bond between the two people transformed into one of the most peculiar and consequential partnerships in Elvis Presley's life as time went on. But when stardom, weariness, and deteriorating health converge, even the greatest connections may be tested. And the journey was no exception. It was an exhilarating and draining experience to be on the road with Elvis Presley. The public's perception of Elvis was one of a glistening superstar, performing for sold-out arenas with a booming band and a bright jumpsuit. The king of rock and roll appeared to feed off the enthusiasm of the audience with each performance. However, the demanding lifestyle that drove this show was rarely seen to the public. It was a relentless cycle of night after night of traveling from city to city, spending hours on buses or aircraft, and under pressure to perform flawlessly. Rest and rehabilitation were not in Elvis's itinerary. Due to the instability of his schedule, sleep became more of a luxury than an essential component of his day. Due to jet lag, erratic eating habits, and an inconsistent schedule, staying healthy was next to impossible. As time went on, Elvis's body and soul were both drained by the constant pressure of performance. Once an exciting aspect of his meteoric climb to stardom, the road eventually became a merciless machine that took more from him than it offered. He was a music lover and performer at heart, but the stresses of touring made him withdraw socially and rely on drugs more and more. Keeping active and healthy when not in front of the camera is a challenge for most individuals, but notably celebrities. The toll that way of life had was something that Dr. George Nichopoulos, also known as Dr. Nick, saw directly. As Elvis's personal physician, he accompanied the singer on tour and attempted to oversee his care as his health deteriorated. The harm done by that life's violent intensity could not be remedied by the greatest medical care that was available. Not only was there physical exhaustion, but mental pressure was also there. In addition to all of that, Elvis had to deal with the stress of upholding a mythical image, while simultaneously dealing with anxiety and sleeplessness. He was protected from the worst parts of celebrity by his tight group. In his latter years, the excursions started to leave obvious, impractical scars. Elvis began to display signs of fatigue and confusion. The glitz and glamour of his earlier performances started to diminish. His performances frequently reflected his backstage conflicts, which escalated into major contests, despite the fact that the emotional intensity stayed high. He had to endure a lifestyle that had formerly been a symbol of his wealth because of touring. The same system that catapulted Elvis to fame also contributed to his deteriorating health and, tragically, his demise. Elvis Presley, one of the most consequential people in music history, passed away suddenly and tragically on the night of August 16, 1977. In the restroom of his Graceland estate in Memphis, Tennessee, his then-fiancée Ginger Alden discovered him unconscious. His life support efforts were unsuccessful, and at 3:30 p.m., he was officially declared dead at Baptist Memorial Health Center. Fans and other artists alike were devastated by the news of his demise, which stunned the world. Elvis was still playing when he passed away at the young age of 42. A new tour was about to start in the coming days. Details of his demise emerged in the hours and days that followed. Despite initial reports of a heart attack as the official reason, a toxicology study found that he had extremely high amounts of prescription drugs in his system. His death was hastened by his long history of abusing prescription drugs, as evidenced by the presence of codeine, Valium, and morphine. There were no illicit chemicals found, but his doctor, Dr. George Nichopoulos, and others were put to the test due to the large number of prescriptions he was taking. Physical changes that contributed to Elvis's deterioration were noticed by those close to him as well as by the general public. Along with a number of health issues, including as glaucoma, liver damage, and high blood pressure, his weariness became more noticeable during concerts and public occasions due to his recent weight increase. Still, Elvis kept on performing under intolerable pressure despite all these red flags. The pressures of his job, the desire to win over his admirers, and his heavy drug use all combined to form a vicious cycle that led to his early downfall. But his passing did more than just mark the passing of a musical legend. It served as a warning about the seedy side of fame. It started a much broader discussion about the duties of people in the entertainment industry and brought attention to the use of prescription drugs by celebrities. Elvis Presley may have ushered in a new age of scrutiny under the spotlight of fame with his death, but he continues to impact music, culture, and society's perception of the costs of famous. Baptist Memorial Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, conducted the first autopsy on Elvis Presley shortly after he passed away on August 16, 1977. The medical examiner for Shelby County, Dr. Jerry Francisco, together with a team of pathologists, performed the examination at the family's request. According to official reports, the person's sudden demise was due to cardiac arrhythmia, an erratic heartbeat most likely triggered by a heart attack. The result did not address many concerns, though, especially considering Elvis's advanced age and the documented health and lifestyle problems he had. The results of the autopsy were contentious right from the start. Most medical professionals and news outlets took Dr. Francisco at his word when he said that drugs had nothing to do with Elvis's demise. Given the long number of prescription drugs discovered in his system later on, critics said this evaluation was too hasty. In spite of the declaration, the Presley family concealed the toxicology findings, leading the public to speculate and theorize about what really caused his death. Elvis had 14 different chemicals in his bloodstream at the time of his death, including powerful sedatives, anti-anxiety meds, and painkillers, according to the toxicology panel, which was revealed 6 months after the original assessment. Extremely high quantities of some medications were found. Dr. George "Nick" Nichopoulos, who was later probed by the Tennessee Medical Board for overprescribing medicines, was linked to Elvis's legacy, and the scandal brought up significant suspicions regarding a potential medical cover-up. There were no illicit chemicals identified, yet the legal mixture was deadly and probably caused Elvis's cardiac arrest. The first autopsy is the most important document about Elvis Presley's life and legacy. Medical ethics, prescription medication misuse, and healthcare for the famous were some of the topics that it sparked. Researchers and historians have looked into Elvis's untimely demise again, this time utilizing the results of the autopsy to piece together a more complete picture of his health deterioration. Although Elvis's official cause of death is still a subject of public record, the first autopsy revealed just as much, if not more, about the society around him as it did about his physical state. When news broke about Elvis Presley's elaborate pharmaceutical regimen, which he had followed for years, the debate surrounding his medicine usage heated up after his death in 1977. Despite Elvis's well-documented struggles with sleeplessness, hypertension, and chronic discomfort, the extensive list of prescriptions he was given caused grave worry. His reported daily drug regimen included barbiturates, tranquilizers, sleeping pills, stimulants, and opiates, among others. A large number of prescriptions contained combinations of medications with potentially lethal dosages and other risks. Dr. George "Nick" Nichopoulos, who had been Elvis's personal physician for many years, was at the epicenter of this scandal. For almost 10 years, Dr. Nick had been Elvis's personal physician, and he accompanied him on tour to keep tabs on his vitals. He faced indictment in 1980 for allegedly overprescribing medications to Elvis Presley and many other patients, including performers like Jerry Lee Lewis. His medical license was withdrawn in 1995 by the Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners for unprofessional conduct, even though he was cleared of criminal charges. Among the earliest high-profile instances of prescription drug addiction, Elvis's case brought attention to the lack of supervision in the distribution of narcotics to the rich and famous. Some say that Elvis was ensnared in a system that cared more about his functionality than about treating the underlying issues that caused his health problems. Elvis was considered as the first of many cautionary tales about the disease of overprescribing in the decades that followed. Beyond reshaping public discussion of Elvis's dying days, the medicine controversy sparked larger discussions within the medical field over the ethics of treating celebrity patients. For powerful people, it emphasized responsibility in the doctor-patient dynamic. Prescription medications are both a legacy of Elvis's compassion and genius, and a sobering warning of the perils that come with both celebrity and careless medicine. An important turning point in the investigation of Elvis's death occurred during the 1980 trial of Dr. George "Nick" Nichopoulos. Several patients, including Elvis, were accused with having their controlled drugs overprescribing by Dr. Nick. The indictment claimed that he gave Elvis more than 10,000 doses of different drugs, including opioids, sedatives, and stimulants, from 1975 to 1977. One of the first high-profile efforts to punish a famous doctor for careless prescribing occurred in this instance. As the prosecution put it during the trial, Dr. Nick had given an excessive amount of drugs, frequently without adequate medical logic. By continuing to administer narcotics, even after it became evident that Elvis was dependent, they said he violated ethical and legal boundaries. On the other hand, the defense argued that Dr. Nick attempted to regulate and reduce Elvis's drug consumption out of concern for the star's well-being, rather than to divert his attention to more risky choices. The defense also highlighted the undue influence Elvis exerted on his doctor to provide the meds he requested. The jury found Dr. Nickopoulos not guilty after deliberating for many weeks in November 1980. Concerns expressed by some in the medical and legal fields over the potential message it would convey on accountability in doctor-patient relationships, particularly in cases involving famous patients, prompted discussion surrounding the verdict. Dr. Nick escaped jail time, but his trial ruined his image and highlighted the dangers of overprescribing in a public light. The verdict didn't do much to absolve him of the guilt that some say caused Elvis's untimely demise in the eyes of many. In 1995, Dr. Nickopoulos had his medical license revoked for unethical overprescribing by the Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners, even though he had been acquitted. Fame, wealth, and healthcare accessibility may merge destructively, as the trial and its aftermath demonstrated. This adds another layer of complexity to treating artists. As a landmark case in the fields of medical ethics and celebrity healthcare, Elvis Presley's 1980 trial is an important part of his biography. The media's obsession with Elvis's death and the preliminary autopsy reports only grew. Many in the public and media continued to doubt the stated explanation, which was heart arrhythmia, particularly when whispers regarding his usage of prescription drugs started to spread. Speculation was further stoked by the Presley family's choice to seal the complete autopsy report for 50 years. Television specials examined Elvis's last days in depth, while tabloids produced sensational headlines implying drugs played a more direct part than disclosed. There were requests for a further investigation into his death as a result of mounting public pressure and media scrutiny. The original conclusions were reviewed by independent forensic specialists and journalists using published toxicological data, even though no official second autopsy was conducted. According to these follow-up studies, Elvis's death was probably caused by, or made worse by, polypharmacy, the risky mixing of several prescription medications, and not just because of heart disease. In 1994, unidentified individuals requested the services of Dr. Joseph Davis, a prominent forensic pathologist and former medical examiner for Miami-Dade County, to assess the evidence. This study was arguably the most consequential. Dr. Davis came to the conclusion that Elvis's untimely demise was likely due to a sudden disturbance of heart rhythm from toxic interaction with substances rather than due to pre-existing heart disease alone. This reasoning provided support for the idea that the many medications he took, some of which had negative effects on respiration and cardiac function, were major contributors to his untimely demise. Expert reappraisals and media skepticism have kept concerns about Elvis's death alive as part of his complicated legacy, even though no official second autopsy reversed the initial cause of death. The discovery of Meggaolon during the initial autopsy was one of the most shocking and medically consequential findings in the aftermath of Elvis Presley's death. Constipation and other gastrointestinal issues can develop when the colon dilates abnormally, a condition known as Meggaolon. In Elvis's instance, his colon was 8 to 9 feet long and had a diameter of 5 to 6 inches, which is approximately double the size of a healthy colon. This suggested that he probably dealt with it for a long time. Meggaolon provided an explanation for some of Elvis's long-term symptoms, such as severe stomach discomfort, bloating, and trouble sticking to a regular eating regimen. He may have relied on prescription pain relievers and digestive regulators due to his severe chronic constipation, which further increased his misery. The fact that Elvis was discovered on the floor of his bathroom implies that he may have passed out while trying to defecate, and some medical professionals think that the severe straining caused by this condition contributed to the arrhythmia that ultimately caused his death. To add insult to injury, Elvis's Meggaolon was either misdiagnosed or undertreated for the most of his life, making this discovery all the more shocking. Even while he was under the care of the best medical experts, his gastrointestinal problems were either misdiagnosed or treated with medicine just to alleviate symptoms. This mistake brings attention to a more systemic problem with his health management. He is addressing symptoms without taking the full picture into account. Because of this, a possibly curable illness was unnoticed. The discovery of Meggaolon altered many people's views on Elvis's fall from grace. It brought up the possibility that his health issues stemmed from a serious medical ailment that was mostly ignored, in addition to being affected by his lifestyle and substance usage. Meggaolon proved that Elvis was burdened by the demands of fame in addition to a painful, poorly understood illness. The use of prescription medicines only made matters worse. This finding adds a poignant new chapter to the tragic tale of Elvis's last days and has focused medical attention on intestinal health. Many have wondered what may have prevented Elvis Presley's untimely demise in the years after his passing. The first step would have been to diagnose his underlying health problems as soon as possible, especially his Meggaolon, a persistent gastrointestinal illness. He might have lived a far better life and used fewer prescription medications to manage his pain and symptoms if he had gotten a proper diagnosis and treatment sooner. He may not have had as much pain had he undergone surgery, altered his diet, and received expert treatment. More conscientious medical supervision is another important component that may have changed Elvis's destiny. Members of Elvis's medical staff were among the many enablers who put placating him ahead of establishing healthy limits throughout his adult life. Dr. George "Nick" Nikopoulos would often prescribe thousands of medications without regularly checking in with patients or coordinating their treatment with other medical professionals. The likelihood of Elvis's tragic medication interactions may have been substantially diminished if he had been treated by a multidisciplinary team that prioritized his long-term health, provided mental health care, and held the prescribing doctors accountable. Elvis had acquired a dependency on substances, ate poorly, and hardly exercised by the mid-1970s. He may have regained command of his body and mind with the help of a structured program that included exercise, nutritional therapies, and therapy for mental health issues related to the pressures, disappointments, and anxieties that come with celebrity. In addition to helping Elvis overcome his reliance on prescription drugs, therapy and counseling might have given him tools to deal with physical and mental suffering. By prioritizing his health before performance schedules and public perception, he may have avoided complications and lived a longer, healthier life. Despite the sadness, his passing highlights the importance of comprehensive healthcare measures for individuals working in stressful jobs. Truthfulness, compassion, and medical ethics in the service of human life and quality are significant themes throughout Elvis Presley's biography. Although Elvis Presley had a profound impact on music and culture, his legacy is defined by the unwavering devotion of his fans and the persistent misunderstanding of those beyond his inner circle. Elvis was an icon of charm, defiance, and passion to his millions of admirers. He was more than just a musician. His revolutionary blend of gospel, blues, country, and rock transformed American music and had an everlasting impression on cultures throughout the world. The emotional burden of fame, a chronic sickness, and an overwhelming yearning for affection and acceptance were all part of Elvis's complicated and sometimes misunderstood life outside of the spotlight. The people closest to Elvis, his loved ones, associates, and employees, commonly known as the Memphis Mafia, were incredibly devoted to him both during his lifetime and for a long time after he passed away. Their love and support were born out of appreciation and real affection, but it also provided a safe haven where his bad habits could flourish. They thought they were protecting Elvis's dignity by trying to keep him away from the truth and the spotlight. On the other hand, his unwavering devotion made it difficult for others to address his deteriorating health or question decisions that resulted in excessive medicine and social isolation. The public's view of him was influenced by misconceptions, particularly in his latter years. Despite his once prominent status, the media portrayed him as someone whose career was fading as he went unwell and developed a drug addiction. Very few people grasped the toll that his health had taken, the pressures of being a superstar, or the agony of being constantly scrutinized by the public. Instead of focusing on reality and compassion, the attention turned to controversy and spectacle. Although it is unfortunate that Elvis's final few years were filled with turmoil, he will always be remembered. Generations of musicians have been moved by his music, and many musicians have acknowledged his impact on their own careers. The devotion of his followers is unparalleled, and investigations into the real guy behind the legend go on. By analyzing the contradictions and false allegiances that characterized his life, we may better understand Elvis and the challenges that people have when they are always in the spotlight. The death of Elvis Presley remains a mystery, and fresh information has only served to heighten the enigma in recent years. Ginger Alden, who was engaged to Elvis at the time, found him unconscious on the floor of the Graceland restroom. Her version is one of the most important first-hand reports. She claims that Elvis probably passed out while attempting to use the restroom, lending credence to the long-running theory that his health issues, including chronic constipation, contributed to his downfall. Medical professionals have reviewed the first autopsy results in addition to Alden's story. A specialist named Dr. Forrest Tennant later examined the records and put out a convincing theory. Elvis's severe head injury in 1967 may have set off an autoimmune disorder, which in turn caused a chain reaction of more health problems. Elvis suffered from a variety of health problems throughout the years, including inflammation, chronic discomfort, and gastrointestinal problems. His deteriorating health seems to have been caused by a complex web of interconnected issues. An autoimmune condition may account for the systemic illness that went unrecognized by others throughout Elvis's lifespan, despite the fact that he did not seem old and vigorous. The notion that Elvis's death was entirely attributable to his substance abuse and bad lifestyle choices is cast into doubt by these new details. Instead, they show how his downfall was the result of a concoction of untreated medical issues, prior injuries, and poor management on the part of those around him. New details are painting a vision of Elvis's dying days that is more tragic and relatable than anybody could have imagined. Do you believe the king might have been saved? Leave a comment and give us a thumbs up if this made you see him differently. Make sure you never miss an episode of the Hidden Stories of History by subscribing and clicking the bell icon. Can we go on? If you want to know what we discovered, you have to watch the following video.